everyone. I just wanted to come on here and make a video about my last couple days because, God has been showing me that the best way to teach others is through your own testimony instead of pointing the finger at other people. And so I just wanted to kind of go over some things that God has pointed out to me that I am struggling with. And some of it I knew already, and some of it I didn't realize was as bad as it was. But anyways, we took a trip to Phoenix, which is about 2.5 hours from where I live. And, my husband had a doctor's appointment, and I went to go clean my mom's house, who's in her 80s, get her house clean. And basically, I'm more of a outgoing person who, more social or whatever, and my husband's kind of an introvert where he doesn't go places very often, and most of the time we don't go anywhere together, and most of the time, other than making meals, we don't really do very much together. And I already knew that we don't really get along very well when we try to do things together, and I knew that that was something that we had to work on. But I thought that I was kind of doing better or whatever at trying to submit or have a better attitude when he asks me to do things and so on. Because every now and then at home he'll ask me to do something, and I've been getting better at not having an attitude. But when I guess it's when I have a lot on my plate that I tend to, I guess we look at our spouses as somebody we want them to help us instead of put more on our shoulders type of thing. And I don't know, but I just know that God pointed out a lot to me. These are different things that He's been showing me because I've been praying and saying, okay, well, where am I at? How am I doing? And God has told me to not just focus on sin, focus on your relationship with Him, because all these other things will fall into place. However, these are things that God points out to us, and so it's kind of hard not to focus on them when, really what He's trying to say is He's holding our hands through our situation, and He doesn't want us to think that we're all alone in the situation, because really He has to change our mind and so on. But I noticed that, it's called being intentional about one thing. So, you got to find the problem to begin with, and then you have to dig for the roots and figure out, well, what's causing this attitude, or why am I so frustrated when, certain things are being said, or what's going on. You got to find the root and figure out, sometimes it might be a fear. Sometimes it might be not, like I think that some of mine is control. And, so anyways, here's, for example, when cleaning my mom's house, I noticed that he wanted to help me, and he wasn't doing it my way, and I got frustrated and critical, and just had to have it done a certain way for whatever reason. And so I noticed that I was getting an attitude there, and I realized, well, what's the reason behind it? And it was control. But then later I complained that I'm not getting enough help. And then I wonder why I'm not getting enough help, and it's because when I do get help, I'm critical, or I'm complaining, or it has to be done a certain way, or I act more like I don't want the help because you're making it worse for me type thing. Well, anyways, that was something that he pointed out to me. He's like, you want more help, but then when you get it, you're complaining. So he pointed that out to me, and then I'm always trying to work on gossip. And so when I'm around other people, I'm like on high alert when it comes to gossip. It's hard to get out of gossip when it starts. And I just try to explain to other people, why gossip isn't a good thing and so on. For example, it might start out something simple, not a big deal, but then everybody puts in their 2 cents and everybody starts bashing the other person, or it turns from something that was supposed to be like you're trying to look for advice in the situation, or, trying to justify your feelings on it, to now everybody is, bashing this other person or whatever, and that's just, and then you might laugh at what they're saying or whatever, and you shouldn't have. And, or for example, when you tell one person something, then they go tell 10 other people, and now it goes from you worrying about the other person's situation to now 10 people are worrying about the other person's situation, and now, you're just creating negative or whatever, because, when worry, doubt, and fear leads to more negativity, and you could be making creations for that other person that you weren't intending. And the example was somebody on Facebook who does a lot of healing, and he said he had healed this older gentleman, and as soon as he did, his granddaughter walked in the room and says, "No, you're dying," and tells him to get back into bed. Well, the next day, he complied. He did what she said. He just went and got back in bed, and next day he died. And so it can all, our words do matter. I mean, that's why it's called spelling. Your word cursing people, and so that's why positive thinking is so important. It's because every negative word that comes out of your mouth, you're making creations that are, I'm not saying that, God protects us from that to some degree. Not everything that you think negative is going to happen or whatever. God is really the one in control, but you're going to get more of what you're complaining about. And part of that reason is because as long as you're complaining about it, God sees it as an opportunity where you need to grow. And, He's going to keep giving it to you until you get over it and learn to think differently about it. We'll put it that way. But some other things that he pointed out to me was there was something that I wasn't tithing on, and I didn't know anything about it until today, and so that was something that I was missing. And I'm in a situation where my bills are getting paid, so God's taking care of us, but we're really short on food and things like that. And so I'm not saying that that's why I am in this situation or whatever, but God's been giving me my daily manna, and He's been teaching me a lot. He's been teaching me to trust Him, and I have a fear where it's like I want to hoard things, just like the Israelites in the desert, because I know the tribulation's coming, and I don't want to trust in miracles. I'm not saying I wouldn't pray for miracles, but I feel like I should, still have wheat in my barn, or whatever. And I try to do my part as far as that goes, or whatever. But anyways, and other things that he's showed me is I'm still defending myself constantly, and it may not even be like I'm being attacked majorly. It could just be a negative word spoken to me about this or about that, and I'm constantly having to have a comeback which is the defending yourself. I'm constantly having to explain myself, and there's no need to explain myself. If I'm right, the truth will come out, and or wait till the person's more open to receive what you're trying to say. Like, a lot of times I get cut down when I try to speak, and I still try to speak, knowing that he's not going to be receptive to what I'm saying at all. I'll just shut it down. And so why do I even bother? And it's like I can't seem to I can't get myself to stop, like talking, or like, it's the controlling the tongue, being slow to speak or quick to listen, or like other things I notice I'm still defending myself on is I'll do something wrong and I'll still justify it by saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have put that there, or do you know what I mean? Instead of just apologizing or whatever, even if it wasn't my fault, just apologize, And then the controlling is just the constant control, because really the truth is we're not in control of anything. And as long as we continue to hold control, God will leave it in our hands and leave the burden on you. And the truth is we don't want the burden. We want God to take care of it, because God can do it way better, way quicker. And we're always impatient or in a hurry. We want things done our way right now. I don't want to wait. I've noticed a lack of patience in myself, and not just in waiting for certain things, but it's, like my husband's slowing down. I'm slowing down because we're getting older. And I just noticed an impatience of when, and this, I know that there's a reason why God makes us get older, and that's because we learn a lot through our older age. Like, for example, vanity goes away as you get older and you age. You get gray hair and wrinkles. Obviously, vanity is going to go away. God has a reason why we get older and slow down and just different things. And anyway, so I've noticed that I'm impatient. Like, I don't like to repeat myself. So I have an issue there where people have a hard time hearing me because I have a more softer voice. And so I already get frustrated with people asking me to repeat myself. I'm not somebody who likes to say a lot of words, even though you guys might not think so. But I just like to, I guess I kind of expect people to have common sense when I speak, and I don't want to sit there, which is funny because I've always been very good at training people or teaching people. But sometimes when it's something simple, like I just kind of want to say the 2 words and I want the other person to understand and figure it out. You know what I mean? I don't know. But so that's something that he's been showing me. And then, let's see. So obviously stop focusing on the problem or solving the problem. Men are like this too. Well, women and men are, we want to just come up with a solution for everything. And sometimes God wants to be the one giving the solution or whatever, and he wants us to, because the thing is that when we're always the one solving the problem, we're putting God in a box, or we're putting our problem in a box and expecting only one solution. And this is where expectation comes in and attitude comes from when things don't happen the way we want, because we put all these expectations in. The money has to come from here. If it doesn't come from here, we're doomed. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, that's the problem, is that, and then obviously, that expectations is a huge reason why we have an attitude, is because we want things done a certain way or at a certain time. And I'm learning that, we have got to let that all go, because all that leads to is ungratefulness, because it didn't happen your way. It didn't come from where you wanted it to come from, and you had to worry and all this stuff and wait and be impatient. It didn't come when you wanted, and we end up just, by the time we get it, we were so frustrated by the time we got it because it didn't happen the way we wanted, that we didn't even appreciate what God did. Do you know what I mean? Let's see. So, but also, just the willingness to help too, because I know most women can relate to what I'm saying. We take on a lot already, and it's like we feel like we're not getting enough help. And so when the other person asks for certain things, we get frustrated because it's like, you should be helping me at this point. I'm running around here like a chicken with my head cut off while you're sitting there relaxing, and then now you have the nerve to ask me for this or that. I'm like, I literally just want to kill you. You know what I mean? But anyways, so, I don't know where, and one of the things that he's been showing me is, think of the other person as somebody that you wouldn't, because it's usually like our spouse, or maybe it's your kids, or I don't know, it's a family member that you have no problems giving them a piece of your mind, right? Well, and I had, same thing in the workplace. You say like it's your employees that are, coworkers that are, you're speaking your mind to because they're frustrating you, and you can get in trouble or lose your job by speaking to them that way. think of them as this is a customer instead, Is this how I would speak to a customer? And start treating, you'll see that you'll treat your coworkers a little differently, because you can get in trouble by speaking to your coworkers wrong, And so, and then obviously just remember that we're not promised tomorrow, and that any of these people that we are not speaking to right could be taken away at any point in our life. And so, we have to just be grateful, for that person, or be grateful for the opportunity, or, just focus on gratitude, and just be willing to serve, and and also, I guess, recognize when somebody is trying to help you, because, maybe we're just not noticing, when other people are trying to help us or whatever, and maybe we tend to get prideful too when other people try to help us. We're like, no, I'm good. I don't need that. I'm fine. And the truth is how many times are you turning away help? You know what I mean? Like, you might be turning away help and then later complaining, oh, nobody's helping me. I don't know, but God is just having me, like, some people think I'm an overthinker, but the truth is that when you dive into the roots of the problem, like what's causing the attitude, focus on the next time you get an attitude, or the frustration, or the anxiety, or whatever it is, and see what is causing this. And like, why is it that I have to have this my way? Why is it that I am holding on? Why do I care so much about this? Is this really that important, or whatever? And is it a fear, or, is this something I need to pray about? Is it something that I just need to communicate better to the other person? Is it, do I just need to give a couple more directions, or whatever, or can I just ask for it a certain way where the other person understands better, or I don't really know. Anyways, the other thing that God has been putting on my heart, or He showed me within this last hour, is that we have to remember that the blood's on our hands when we don't warn other people. You've got to come out of those sins. We can't just brush it under the rug, or, just slightly say, oh, don't worry about it. You just can't, we try to encourage people, and I'm not saying that we should be critical, okay? But we need to tell people how serious it is. Hey, this is one of the 10 Commandments. You've got to come out of this. You got to come out of agreement with this. You got to pray about this. You got to ask for help in this area. Like, tell them that, this is not something to play around with. This isn't a joke, and just let people know that, hey, if you're gossiping, you got to stop that, and, pray for help, it could be a spirit that you have that's going on, or whatever. And I was in that for a really long time, but part of that was me, again, trying to control other people, and just that worry. I had that motherly worry. I'm just worried about everybody and everything, and that also being a busybody in everybody else's business. When truth is all I'm really doing is avoiding my own problems and what I need to work on and focus on. And, if we all just focused on ourselves, think how much, I'm not saying be selfish here, but I'm saying if we all worked on one thing in our own lives to be better people, how much more do you think better the world would be? Instead of, I have no control over other people. We can give advice, but it starts with yourself, and that's one of the things that, everybody's always pointing the finger at everybody else, but nobody wants to work on themselves. Nobody wants to, take accountability for their attitude, or what did, I'm not saying that the other person didn't cause problems or whatever, but what could you do to make it better? I guess that's the time's up. Anyways, I love you all. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.